we are going to run into a transportation crunch here.
You're listening to the BulkLoads podcast, your number one resource for everything bulk freight trucking. And this is episode 243.
Hey guys, Jared Flynn with the BulkLoads podcast. Got Tyler with me?
What's going on?
I'm digging this new system.
Yeah, big step up.
Tyler surprised me, and we have fully upgraded our sound system. So I don't know if it sounds different on your end as a listener, but we went from the outhouse to the penthouse with our studio. And I think a lot of it, we're going to be at Matt's coming up here in a couple weeks, and we're going to take the podcast on the road and knock out podcasts there. And so if you are going to Matt's, when you come to our booth, you'll see our podcast system set up. And man, we'd love to do a podcast with you.
Yeah.
We have some slots that are still open, and just talking about everything in bulk freight trucking. So man, if you would love to join us, we would love to have you on the show.
Yeah. And I think first off, we want to thank our listeners. We wouldn't be able to upgrade our system and do this kind of stuff without you guys. The show has grown tremendously over the years, and that's our number one goal, is to provide the best entertainment and sound quality that we can for you guys.
I had a guy actually reach out to me this week and mentioned that he listens. He's a BulkLoads member, but listens to our podcast every week. And he's like, man, I feel like I know you and I've never met you. And I took that as a compliment that, man, we do try to pour our heart and souls into this and give everybody the knowledge and resources. You know, I'm older and I want to give back to everything that I learned over the years. And we think this is a great way to do it. So yeah, like Tyler said, thank you so much to our listeners and supporters out there on the show.
Yep.
So cool. Well, today I'm going to bring back our returning guest, an old colleague, Steve Morgan with Poole Chemicals. If you hadn't heard Steve before, he's been on the show a handful of times probably, but I really use him as a resource to give us expertise on what's going on in the fertilizer market. We had him on last fall, especially with everything going on with the world and Russia, trying to talk about how this thing's going to unfold. But what's interesting, you're going to see why kind of the market is where it is right now, especially in the fertilizer market and the slowness of it. Steve's going to come and talk about why we're not seeing a lot of fertilizer demand right now. But I don't want to give it away. He says, get ready. It is going to come in like a freight train, and it's going to run the market up pretty good, which is going to be favorable for demand for truckers, therefore rates for truckers.
Yeah. Awesome. He's always very knowledgeable on this subject. So I'm always like whenever we bring him on.
Yeah. And like you said, he's been wrong a lot of times, and he was wrong on even talking about what he thought was going to happen with Russia and all that, but I'm not a conspiracy theory when talking about it, but like he was talking about, you know, a lot of this fertilizer Russia's still selling and we're still getting it, just not from Russia.
Yeah.
So you can do the math and figure out where that's coming from that. So, but cool. Well, with that said, here's my conversation with Steve Morgan of Poole Chemicals. Steve, welcome back.
Thanks, Jared.
Yeah.
Good to be back.
Well, yeah, you're a reoccurring guest, and I think I always hit you up this time of the year for to kind of give us some insights on the fertilizer market. But I was thinking the other day that, man, it is, and you're going to talk about this, but man, we are in uncharted waters. You know, the past really couple of years, a lot of our truckers, they've been blessed with a lot of demand, and which led to good freight rates. But man, we've seen it just in 2023, the first part really slow down and fall off. And you know, one thing we keep talking about here in the office is, man, just we got to get fertilizer season to ramp up. That's going to start pushing up demand. So that's why I want the highlight of this conversation to be with you really is talking about, man, what's on the horizon. Last time you were on, you talked about, you know, kind of why we are where we are, and we might start a little bit there, but I think I want you to use your crystal ball and talk that way, what we might to expect. So we'll kick it off there.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think earlier I mentioned that I was talking to my boss about 6 months ago, and I made the statement that my 40-plus years in the business did not prepare me for this year. It's clearly, as you mentioned, uncharted waters. a lot of things in the world are influencing what we do, and I've misjudged this market, unfortunately, to some extent. And back in November, I should have gotten a wake up call. Was was listening to a TV show, and they were mentioning the fact that Europe had managed to accumulate 80% of their total energy needs, and they already had them in house. And that should have triggered me to start thinking that way on fertilizer, and it didn't.
Okay.
That was a shocking thing for me. I thought when we were all being told those folks are going to freeze to death over there.
Yeah, I remember that conversation that we had about that.
And here they are in November, and they've got 80% of their needs in house. Well, that started the energy thing on the decline, and certainly we've had some cost reductions on the energy side, especially natural gas. I mean, that the Henry Hub gas price today, we're in the 250 to 260 range. That's Trump territory, you know.
Yeah.
And it's coming, through the winter. Now, granted, this country's natural gas consumption is much higher in the summer than the winter, but still, there's a much higher consumption, than average through the winter months. And here we are in a historic, almost, decline in the price.
So what's that? In we don't need to go. We can talk how this relates to fertilizer, but so what is that?
Right.
What is that doing to the market currently?
The decline in energy prices, and especially natural gas, certainly impacts what goes on in nitrogen. All nitrogen fertilizer begins with the manufacture of ammonia, and virtually all ammonia comes from natural gas, virtually everywhere in the world. Now there are some minor exceptions, but as far as total production, it's probably still less than 5%. So the whole world uses natural gas as a feedstock for the production of nitrogen fertilizer, and the feedstock thereafter is hydrogen. Okay, natural gas is a very, very hydrogen rich product. So that's what they're after. It is essentially the only feedstock for nitrogen fertilizer. And in fact, it is the only feedstock. Ammonia, a urea, ammonium nitrate, liquid nitrogen, even ammonium sulfate, it all comes from ammonia. So that's the start. And so here we are. We've seen the nitrogen prices decline rapidly, especially urea. In fact, it's been cut in half or more from where it was 6 months ago. So what does that do? Well, a lot of folks jumped out in late summer, early fall, thinking this problem with the world supply and the Ukraine and Russia, the fact that Europe does not have the energy to make their own nitrogen, now they're in the market buying it, and they're running the price up. Well, the same thing that happened on energy prices also happened in the fertilizer business. They were buying fertilizer right along with buying their energy needs, and all of a sudden they start to get full, or at least get comfortable. And so here, once everybody realized the Europeans are not buying anymore, guess what? Got an oversupply, the world geared up to make all kinds of stuff. We're now I'm not going to say we're in an oversupply situation, but we're comfortable, and there's no demand.
Well, so when we talked about this last fall, yeah, you know, a big thing a lot of people already know that are listening to this broadcast that a huge amount of that fertilizer comes out of Russia, right? So the scare was that, you know, we put these embargoes on, we can't get it out of Russia. We're going to run, you know, we're going to be short supply. Why? How all of a sudden are we at supply or oversupplied?
Well, we've got an adequate supply. I'm not saying there's mountains of it, but we've got an adequate supply. Keep in mind that Russia's still selling as much as they ever did.
That's coming to the U.S.?
Oh, sure, in a roundabout way.
Indirectly, okay.
Yeah. And, I mean, you know, it's unfortunate, but clearly the Chinese and the Indians are the primary customers for this, and Russia's selling it to them at great discounts to get them to take it. They're not stupid, and they aren't necessarily in love with Russia, so they see an opportunity and they're taking advantage of it. And some of that stuff gets rerouted back over here. Not a lot, but it's still happening. Probably more so on potash than nitrogen, and we've kind of focused on the nitrogen at the moment because that's been the most dramatic price movement product. So, but potash and some phosphates are finding its way over here from Russia still.
Hey guys, Jared Flynn here. You've heard us talk about in our intros and outros, but we will be at the Mid-America Truck Show March 30th through April 1st. We would love to see you there. We know that this is one of the best spots for us to meet so many of you all in one setting. I know a lot of you are all across the country and come to this event. So yeah, if you are planning to attend the Mid-America Truck Show on March 30th through April 1st, please come see us. We are in the West Wing. You can look up on the app, or I'm sure that they'll have signage on that. But yeah, Mid-America Truck Show, BulkLoads, Bulk Insurance Group, and Smart Freight, we will all be there, and we hope to see you there. So we were almost fear buying last year, thinking that we're gonna run out, and now we've realized that we're still going to get this one way or the other. And now we're at full supply, maybe oversupplied in the market.
Well, let me put it this way. I'm going to get to a point later in our conversation, but we're not oversupplied. Okay. But we're adequate. What is happening, and you and I would be the same way, if we had a demand for a product, we needed material, but the price is dropping every day. Are you a buyer?
No.
Well, no. You're going to wait until you think we've reached the bottom, or you've run out of time and you now got to have it. Well, that's where we find ourselves today. A lot of folks bought a fair amount of material, including our own company, and it's vastly overpriced at this point. And we're taking losses on that, and so are, you know, practically everybody else. And our primary goal is to get rid of this high-priced inventory before we buy anything else. We kind of need to see where we are. And so you mentioned that, you know, the spigot for freight demand got turned off, and that's true. I mean, the demand from our customers, you know, to us basically evaporated for the last 3 months.
I should know this. You've been in the industry. I'm not trying to name your age. Double what I have. I mean, I'm pushing 20 years, but I think you're probably double that. And that's why I love having you on as a with your wisdom and being a veteran in the industry. But typically, I do remember. I mean, we do start seeing more fertilizer moving right now this time of the year, right?
Yes, but it's not happening.
And it's just not happening at all.
No. Our numbers clearly reveal that, and we're not alone. again, going back to this, the price is in decline. We have needs. We don't have near enough in the house to take care of our demand. We know that. Yet we're not a buyer. We also haven't been pushed. Not only are fertilizer prices declining, but commodity prices are too. Farmers are all of a sudden a little leery of making decisions, hoping that the picture becomes clearer the longer they wait. Weather's also been a factor. Let's face it, for most of the Midwest, it's wet.
Yeah.
There's snow on the ground in Iowa and the Dakotas still. They're going to be delayed. Now, granted, once weather straightens up, they've got plenty of equipment, and they can almost plant the entire corn crop in 2 weeks with the equipment they have today. So it's not like it would have been 20 years ago where this would be panic mode right now. We got plenty of time and capacity to do the job, but we're running out of time. And this is a point that I was going to get to a little later too, but this is probably a better place to put it. We are going to run into a transportation crunch here. I can assure you that virtually everybody still needs to buy material to finish out their season. And they're not buying. They haven't put it in because the price has been in decline. There's not a lot of demand, and they're not going to buy until somebody walks through the door or they move the material they've got in the house.
So that, yeah.
All
So
of
what you're
those
saying, I mean, it's
factors
a
are
negative,
saying
but there's a positive coming with that. I mean, there's going to be
there's a positive coming,
this,
and it's crunch time.
yeah, this fertilizer, it's going to move. We know that.
It is going to move.
Every year it moves, and it gets
year.
moved. But this year it seems like we have this delay right now due to this drop in prices, and we're just waiting for someone to see that floor, or for those farmers to kind of step up and say, hey, we're ready to start taking this stuff.
Yeah. Again, these guys are going to start working on inventory, and now every dealer is going to be different. So it's not like every dealer on the same day is going to pick up the phone and call their transportation company and say, go get this stuff, because but it will happen in a 2-week period. How's that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would bet March 15th, the phone starts to ring. Now, weather is going to play a factor. Jared, as you know, we're wet today. Here in Missouri, we're getting some moisture even today. It's not a lot,
and more to come. I mean, if you look at on the 10-day, it's every other day chances of rain. So yeah, we're plenty saturated down here in the southwest corner, for sure.
Talking to a fellow that used to work for me just yesterday, farms in northern Iowa, and he said, we're going to get another foot of snow here tonight.
Oh my!
So that's north central Iowa. That's the best corn country on the planet. They're delayed.
Which we never want to turn away moisture. That's for sure.
Up there, their biggest issue is it's too wet and they have to tile. But yes, you never want to. And of course, our company is primarily in the western corn belt, and we're still dry in some areas, and that's impacting the demand picture too. So declining commodity prices, declining corn prices, and I will tell you that the price of fertilizers are determined by the commodity price more than the energy price going into it. Commodity prices influence the price of fertilizer way more than the cost of production. Now, when you get out on the extremes, extremely low energy price or extremely high energy price. Those two definitely impact the price. But if you're in the middle, and this is where we are today, commodity prices dictate what prices are doing. If corn prices are declining, there's a way better than even chance that fertilizer prices will decline. And the reverse is also true. Rising commodity prices will allow for rising fertilizer prices. Let's say this. I'm going to predict at this point, and I've been I've been in trouble all year, but I'll step out on a limb and do it again here. But we've seen the bottom, especially on liquid. Now that market turned almost $40 a ton here last week. That's a big move.
What percentage is that of a drop at that price?
20%.
Man. Okay.
Now, liquid nitrogen dropped from the high 50%. It made 20% of it back in 1 week. Last week. So prices are probably at the bottom. I don't look for major price increases on urea. It's going to be from where prices are today. I expect them to be very stable and trade in a fairly narrow range, even in peak demand. Now, so the biggest variable may be transportation.
Well, and that's where I wanted to kind of in our kind of the next half of this conversation, kind of plant our conversation here. Let's talk about liquid first. You know, we get that question asked all the time when we have companies on the board. They want to move. They want to move liquid, and again, you can't. Liquid is there's a lot of different varieties, a lot of different equipment types, and all that. We know that it's very specialized, but what are your thoughts this year on liquid? If someone's sitting there saying, "Man, I think I want to get involved with moving liquid fertilizer," good time to be doing this. Good time to be thinking about this. Steps that they could be making right now.
Well, liquid in revenue per mile pays more than dry typically. Anhydrous ammonia, of course, paying even more, but that takes much more specialized and highly regulated equipment too. So, but you have to look at what are the alternatives for these liquid tankers.
What do they do in the non-fertilizer movement months?
So typically in this region, that's energy and or other chemical type products. Most of the time, these tankers are stainless steel in the fertilizer business, although it doesn't have to be. If you're only hauling liquid nitrogen, aluminum is ideal. So can you see some fuel tankers? Maybe. I suppose, but the unfortunate thing is you're running at partial capacity, and of course that sometimes leads to unsafe driving. If you got a half full truck, that thing moves around on you. If it's not highly baffled, you're in trouble. So you see a lot of fuel tankers hauling liquid nitrogen because literally they can only be half full. Now, weight wise, they're going to be full.
One of the challenge I think this year too, again, guys maybe thinking about getting in that business that don't have equipment. Equipment prices are still on the highs. I mean, they haven't even they haven't backed down. We've seen the freight market, suppress and come down, but you're still not seeing it on tractors and trailers and equipment and stuff like that. So it's going to be tough for those guys to be thinking that way. When I'm just ballparking, but they go out there and look at a trailer that's $150,000 or more. Is this going to pencil out right? And that's just one aspect of it, but making sure you have all the other regulations, the right insurance, the right permitting, and all that. But I know it's a conversation we always talk about every year, and we get a lot of questions because a lot of guys do see that as an opportunity. It seems like there's those peak seasons where, man, if you have the equipment and you're doing it, man, there can be revenue made. And especially like you're saying this year, when we have this hold, or these people holding to see this bottom, and then all of a sudden they're going to turn the spigot on, and there's going to be no liquid tankers available anywhere.
And liquid's going to be worse than dry. The crunch is going to be far worse on liquid than it is on dry.
Yeah. Well, it's just so specialized too. There's just limited amount of that equipment to move. And again, if you're wanting this to move in a shorter window, it's just, it's going to create a storm. Positive for the guys that have that equipment, but negative for the companies that are trading it and selling it out in the market.
Hey, Jared, I want to clarify something, just to make sure nobody misunderstands. I mentioned that being able to use an aluminum trailer, but I want to make sure that everybody understands that that is only for liquid nitrogen. The other liquid fertilizer products like phosphates or liquid fertilizers containing potash, you cannot put those products in an aluminum trailer. You'll be in trouble with that.
Yep. Well, appreciate you clarifying that. And we always say that as a disclaimer. Make sure and do your homework out there as a driver and truck owner to make sure that you have all the steps in line to make sure that you're compliant and safe. Steve, last thing I just want to ask you too. With this crunch, when are you predicting those long lines down at Catoosa and Port 33? When should we start seeing those lines of 200-300 trucks?
Well, there's been some movement now, mostly for wheat top dress.
Yep.
So that would be urea. But that's not, we haven't hit the corn season at all. So the bigger volume will be there. I will say that the liquid plants like at Woodward, Oklahoma, at Enid, Oklahoma, also to some extent at Tulsa or Catoosa, there are 3 big liquid nitrogen plants at those cities, and the lines out west have been long. We're talking 8-hour lines for liquid right now.
Oh, right now they are?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's already crunched.
Well, it's just started. Okay. Last week was the first week. Jared, normally we're starting to top dress wheat in January, and it just kind of moves along at a steady pace. We just have not seen that this year. And now it's all happened in the last part of February, first part of March. Typically, people want to get on top dresser wheat before it joints, which is a growth stage.
Mm-hmm.
And the old rule of thumb that everybody kind of shoots for is March the 15th. They got to have gotten on it before March the 15th because that's when it starts to joint. And once you top dressing wheat after it joints, it will actually start to negatively impact yield. You're breaking off the growing points. It's not going to tiller properly in the tire tracks, that is. So they avoid it as much as possible. But every year's different, temperature wise, growth stage wise. There may be years where it doesn't joint till almost April. Although this year it's been warmer than average, so my guess is it's maybe starting to joint in the south, Texas, on the way up. So
I think we can always all hope and pray for especially a good wheat crop. We know that helps, especially our truckers really get demand. And sometimes when we have a dry season or some of those wheat crops that aren't as favorable, it just kind of suppresses things until fall harvest. And that's typically a good thing that we see. overall. But no, I think, like I said, Steve, I appreciate you coming on and just kind of giving a highlight of what's going on. It's just, yeah, we haven't, this last year was just so different. And again, man, especially in the bulk side, demand has just been, it was just rocketing for the past 2 years. I mean, there's just no trucks. And man, 2023 hit and we just saw it down. And again, we just knew it was a matter of time. I've seen these cycles. It seems like every 4 years almost, we see kind of this little cycle. And you're talking about fertilizer, and I don't want to dwell on it, but I can remember back when I was at Bartlett with you, but it was, I think, that 08 or 09 where prices ran up. Everybody had these long positions on high prices, and I know some companies got in big trouble over that because they were too long at high price and couldn't get rid of it. But it seems like, man, we're almost seeing a little bit of that same scenario unfold right now in the market.
Well, a little, but it's nothing like 2008.
Was it 8? Okay, I thought it was. Yeah, I thought it was 8 when that was happening.
Yeah, the run up was 7 and 8, and the disastrous downturn was in 9. So people remember that, and that was so devastating.
Yeah. People learn.
So people have that's why there's still demand out there. In 2009, everybody was so full, they had more than enough fertilizer for all of 2009 already in house, and we have not done that this year. So there's still demand. The truck line phones are going to ring.
Yep. Just be patient. Year. Yep. Be patient. And if you can weather the storm, you'll be rewarded for sure. So, hey, Steve, thanks so much for coming on the show, man. Appreciate your wisdom and guidance out there. And, look forward to seeing this demand spike up.
Hey, good luck.
Tyler, I feel Steve could have been a college professor if he didn't go to work in the fertilizer industry. He's so knowledgeable. And again, when I listen to him, I feel like I'm getting lectured or getting taught on chemistry and how fertilizer works and the chemicals of fertilizer to make a plant grow. And it's very cool. Sometimes I have to kind of slow down or have Steve slow down and be like, okay, what are we talking about again? And how does that work? So, but yeah, I think it was just it was reassurance to us that demand is going to come back up for fertilizer. So maybe we're not seeing it right now. And maybe this time of year, that's a big part of your operation is hauling fertilizer. But he said, just get ready because, the market's going down. Nobody's buying. But man, when people want to start applying this, it's going to come out of nowhere, and there's going to be a big crunch, as Steve said, a super big crunch, both on the dry and liquid side. He already said it is with the liquid, but he said we're just going to see more of that. Right now, it's wet in most areas, still snow on the ground in the northern Midwest. But so I just want you as listeners, man, be ready and hang in there right now.
Yep.
Again, we listen to everybody. We know that the market's been challenging and tough here for the past couple months, but man, if you hang in there, you are going to be rewarded for it.
Yeah, I say, Jared, we talked about this not too long ago, but loads have been kind of down on the load board, but as the coming week, as we progress, I mean, we're seeing shippers and brokers hop back on there and start increase their posting. And with Steve's kind of expectation, I can see a lot more postings on the load board and that picking back up.
Yeah, I think overall, and we're all guilty of this, you want to cry wolf and throw the towel in, but man, be patient out there. Know that this is just a blip, and man, demand is going to be rocking here before too long with everything. We know not just fertilizer season, but landscape season's coming up, input planting season. So there's just going to be a lot of stuff that gets moving. We're just seeing a little dry spell right now, but that should pick up. Before we go, man, Matt's is just right around the corner, Tyler, a couple weeks.
Yep.
Man, I feel like we got a lot of stuff set up here. We're getting ready to. I mean, we're testing and looking at before we bring the mats.
Yep.
But we are super excited. We want to see you there. What we already have 240, 50 people.
Yeah, and that's just they got free tickets through us.
Yeah.
I imagine there's a ton of our members that have already had tickets, and they've already let us know as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you haven't got your mats tickets yet, if you go to the actual Mid America Truck Show website, they are charging $10 per ticket. But if you use our link, which you can find on the forum or Facebook page,
You can try to drop it in the episode notes
yep,
here.
Yep, I'll drop in the episode notes as well. But yeah, if you use our link, you can still sign up completely for free and get VIP access through us. What VIP is that you get to enter the show 2 hours before everybody else. So you can come visit us, come visit other vendors. You'll get in the doors before anybody else. So
And that's huge, especially on Friday and Saturday, because it gets nutso in there. I mean, you're shoulder to shoulder. So, yeah, if you can get in a couple hours earlier, you want to definitely take advantage of that. And I guess, I mean, even if you're thinking about going right now, go ahead and sign up. I mean, if you don't, you're not out anything, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So, man, go to the episode notes here or where Tyler said and purchase or get your tickets for free right now. That way you can plan around and, again, save a little money for you.
Yep, exactly.
So, awesome. Cool. Well, last but not least, hey, we are on anywhere podcasts are played. So, we are on Audible, we are on Amazon, Google Play, all that. One asset I have, again, we make this a free podcast for you as listeners. So the only thing I would love to ask in return is to drop us a review. I know that takes a little bit of work, a little bit of calories, but man, it would mean so much to us. It lets us know how we are doing, but also helps other people see whether this podcast would benefit from them.
Yep.
So, man, would love for you to just drop a quick review about our podcast, kind of what the value that you've got out of it. That way, if somebody else is searching it, they can look and see, hey, is this something that would benefit me or not? But again, go to anywhere that you're listening. There should be a review section in there. Give us a review, and we would love you for that.
Yep,
So,
awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for listening to the BulkLoads podcast, and God bless.